I'm here at the University of Tennessee with Tyler Carr, and he did a experiment growing in greens type zoysia. I'm going to ask him to describe this experiment.
Yeah, so here we have Prizm zoysiagrass that we did a sprigging establishment trial on in 2020 and 2021. Behind us, this is Prizm that was established in 4 different months in 2020. So we did the middle of April, May, June, and July. We wanted to see what was the optimal planting date for Prizm here in East Tennessee, where we get really warm summers, but we get pretty moderately cold winters. Really what we saw is that earlier planting ensured complete establishment in the first year. But if you planted in June or July, we may not get full establishment. What we're standing on right now is this same study repeated in 2021. And as you can see, it's not as fully established as it was in 2020. We saw similar results. We had a little bit of a warmer season in 2021. The sprigs we planted in June are fully covered. So we would say that we reached full establishment in 2021 in June. That was planted mid-June. But July, you see a lot of sand here, and that did not reach full establishment. So pretty much from this study, we would recommend planting at this rate that we had, which was 1,200 bushels per acre. Planting somewhere in mid-May to the end of May to allow for the most rapid establishment, so your course is down for the shortest period of time, but allowing for complete establishment in that first season.
How do you fertilize these when you were trying to rush the grow in?
So we were fertilizing it was a 1/4 pound of nitrogen per week.
Granular?
With urea. And then we had different treatments of phosphorus that we attempted. It was a half a pound of P2O5 every 2 weeks or every 4 weeks. It didn't matter if you applied it every 2 weeks or every 4 weeks. They both established the same. They established faster than the plots that were not treated with any phosphorus, though. We assume that was due to a phosphorus deficiency, which we had from soil testing. So if we have, I would assume that if we have enough phosphorus in the soil from a soil test report before establishing, before planting, we would likely not need to add any supplemental
So
phosphorus.
you had no phosphorus and then 2 rates of phosphorus?
Yes.
So you had three
Treatments.
different
within.
phosphorus treatments.
Mm-hmm.
So it was definitely faster when you added phosphorus, but there was also a phosphorus deficiency here, so it obviously needed it.
Yes, obviously needed phosphorus in the soil.
And so the soil test results, or the grass growing results confirmed what the soil test had shown.
Yes. And typically, if it would have been a mature stand, we may have never seen those deficiencies, but growing it in,
I think it's really important because phosphorus is not mobile in the soil. It's really important when you're establishing turf from seed or from stolons that you need to have that phosphorus right where the roots are. And if you've got a big, fully developed root system, then it's much easier to deal with low phosphorus in the soil. But when there is low phosphorus and you don't have much of a root system, it often provides a nice boost to growth.
And we definitely saw that here.
Cool. Well, so what do you think about sprigging versus sodding? Based on what you've learned from this experiment, do you think one is preferable over the other for these new zoysia greens?
Yeah, if time is of the essence, sodding is the way to go. It's going to give you the least amount of time between shutting the course down and reopening it for play. There are some issues with sodding, assuring that you get sod that's uniformly cut at a low height of cut, and that can allow you to get on it and mowing it pretty rapidly. Sprigging, on the other hand, takes a lot longer to establish, but once it's established, it's ready to go. It's firm, whereas some of the sodding I've seen has been pretty puffy and slow. But I think if you have a short growing season, sodding may be the way to go.
So for the Knoxville climate, the take-home message would be the optimum sprigging time is what time of year?
I would say middle May to 1st of June in Knoxville if you're going to sprig.
And the type of temperatures that you're coming into at that time of year is?
We're seeing highs in the 80s, lows in the 50s, 60s.
Okay, so something highs approaching 30 degrees Celsius.
Yes.
Then.
Mm-hmm. And the warmer it is, the faster it grows. That's what we've.
That's for sure.
We've seen when we've planted in June and July, we get much faster, much higher rates of establishment. We just don't have enough time before the temperature drops off to get it fully established.
I understand.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I can't wait to read your paper about this and see some more of the data. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
These are some beautiful plots. This is zoysiagrass and Tifway 419. You said, Tyler, that this is a traffic study, and it looks so good. I had to ask you, where's the traffic? Can you explain to me what this is about?
Yeah, so these are 3 different zoysia grasses we have. Xeon is a very popular commercially available zoysia grass. Stadium is another zoysia grass that's been developed. We also have 54-9, which is an experimental zoysia grass out of the University of Georgia's breeding program. And we wanted to compare these to Tifway for traffic tolerance. And so beginning in June of last year, we applied either 4 or 8 games of simulated traffic per week on these until they dropped below 50% coverage. Well, what we saw was that Tifway, which Bermuda grass has been known to be very traffic tolerant, performed really well. Zoysia grasses have been deemed not super traffic tolerant. Stadium, which is one of the newer ones, had very good traffic tolerance, even better than Xeon, which has been used on sports fields.
Can you show us which one is?
So in addition, Stadium, and it's March right now. It's pretty green. It's one of the greenest ones we have. This is Stadium, and then we have Xeon back here. Actually, this is Stadium and Xeon side by side. So Xeon's used on sports fields right now. Stadium has better traffic tolerance than Xeon, has better color, and it's not as much of a vertical growing grass. Once we were done with the traffic, we allowed for them to recover. Zoysia grass also has been talked about not having great traffic recovery. These all recovered in about 2 weeks. I know it was in August when temperatures were really good for zoysia grass growth here. But we're really pleased that all these could recover, which leads to some potential promise of using these as an alternative on sports fields in areas where shade may be an issue, some places in the United States.
So the Tifway 419 was still better when you put really high rates of traffic on it, but the zoysias were just a little bit behind.
Yeah, so at 4 games of traffic per week, Tifway and Stadium were neck and neck. This is 1 year of data on this. When we got to 8 games of traffic per week, Tifway and Stadium were pretty similar until we reached about 32 games, so around 4 weeks. That's when we started to see that separation between the two. But 8 games of traffic, like you know, Micah, would be a lot of games per week. But we wanted to really put these to the limit.
Cool. Well, I'm really impressed with how good these look, and awesome. I hope you get some more good data this coming season.
Awesome. Thanks, Micah.
Tyler, this is your famous green speed on zoysia grass putting green trial. You had 2 fertilizer rates. Tell me a little bit more about the exact details of that, what varieties we have, and how you maintained this as a putting green.
Yeah. So during the summer, 2020 and 2021, we applied over 16 weeks, 1.5 or 3 pounds of N per 1,000 square feet. That was applied every 2 weeks.
So for each variety, they either got
1.5 pounds.
Or,
so around 0.2 or 0.4 pounds of N per 1,000 square feet every 2 weeks.
Okay, and that on an annual basis in metric, that'll be 7.5 grams per square meter at the low rate, and 15 grams per square meter at the high rate.
Right, and so that was done from starting in June. Within that, we have 4 different zoysia grass cultivars. We have Laser, which is a hybrid. It's a Zoysia Matrella minima hybrid. Right now, it kind of has this purplish color to it, but during the middle of the summer, it has a great green color to it, but it just looks a little different during this time of the year. What Micah's standing on currently is Trinity. We commonly see this on golf course fairways and tees, and not as common on putting greens. Some of the newer products or some of the newer cultivars are Prizm and Primo, or M85. This is Prizm right here, and then right behind us would be M85 or Primo.
I'm standing on some soft grass right now. That is turf that is in between plots and got a little bit of extra fertilizer.
Yep, so the plots on the outside of the middle, these both had the 3-pound nitrogen rates.
Oh, so this is 3 pound and 3 pound
So
with
this
some
is getting
overlap.
about 6 pounds of nitrogen
Okay.
over a 16-week period. Over those 2 years, we really saw that there was some variability in the performance of these grasses. But from what we did, we mowed these at 0.115 inches every day of the week. Well, 5 days a week. We rolled them 5 days a week. And we had some green speeds that are traditionally not as common for zoysias as what's been previously reported. Throughout the whole study, they averaged over 10 feet in at least 10 feet in green speeds when we measured them weekly. Some of them averaged closer to 11 or 12. That could be due to our management practices being so intense. If you back those management practices off a little bit, raise your mowing height, reduce your rolling frequency, I could see those those green speeds lowering. But overall, these greens show a little bit of promise from a playability standpoint. And like we just talked about a minute ago, establishment is a whole different story. Some things that we've also noticed, aside from the playability of the greens, is we also have a fungicide trial.
So what we've looked at here that has, it looks like minimal disease right now,
Yep.
but then it turns out it's not because it's resistant. These got preventative fungicide last fall.
They got preventative fungicide. We've never, on this green, and I'm not saying zoysia grass will never get it, but on this green, we've never seen large patch, but we have seen a lot of spring dead spot. This in particular is M85 or Primo that has copious amounts of spring dead spot. We have some treatments here. You can see the plots that don't have any spring dead spot have been treated preventatively for spring dead spot. And we can also see that the areas where there may have, when we were spraying this green preventatively, areas that were not covered, that are outside of this treatment area, also have spring dead spot as well. This is Primo and Trinity here.
Looks like a disease that you would definitely want to spray, because there's also these scars. This is from last year and it didn't recover, did it?
Nope, this is from last year. This is when we figured out that we had spring dead spot. We actually had a trial here for large patch. We got no large patch and we got all this spring dead spot. So in our area, these grasses, I would recommend applying fall preventative apps for both large patch and spring dead spot.
Because if you don't, the zoysia, one of the good characteristics of zoysia, or one of the desirable characteristics, is its slow growth rate. But that means you better not get any damage on it, whether that's mechanical damage or drought stress damage or disease scar damage because it just takes too long to recover.
It's like a double-edged sword where you, because this, even though we had great growing conditions for a couple months out of the year, it still didn't recover. And this is even worse than it was last year.
All right, well, thank you. Thanks for the tour of this experiment. I've been watching this from afar for a long time, and it's exciting to come see it in person. And I understand you've got a paper in review now about this, so it will be nice to read that when it comes out.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks, Micah.
All right, thanks, Tyler.